This story begins in a prison in Siberia, where many German soldiers were held. After World War II ended, Russia captured many German soldiers and forced them to work in lead mines. Although the security of this prison was quite lax, no one tried to escape because the prison was surrounded by nothing but snow and was 14,000 kilometers away from any human settlement. Even if a prisoner managed to escape, the freezing cold of Siberia would surely kill them. However, among these prisoners, there was one who wanted to escape and return to his wife and daughter. This prisoner's name was Clemens Forel, who was sentenced to 25 years in this prison. But Clemens was determined to escape because he couldn't spend his entire life as a prisoner. One day, Clemens got the chance to escape, and he fled the prison by boarding a coal train. When he saw the open sky and the stars outside the prison, he was overwhelmed with joy. However, after traveling a short distance, the train was stopped. When Clemens peeked outside, he saw a Russian soldier standing in front of him with a gun. Clemens was caught and, as punishment for attempting to escape, he was locked in an open-air cell. 2 days later, the warden came to him, took him out of the cell, and said, "Your comrades are eagerly waiting for you." When Clemens met his fellow prisoners after 2 days, they were waiting for him with sticks and rods. Because of Clemens' escape attempt, they had been starved for the past 2 days. As soon as they saw Clemens, the other prisoners attacked him and beat him severely. Clemens was so badly injured that he had to be admitted to the prison hospital. The prison doctor was also a German prisoner, and he was amazed by Clemens' bravery. Clemens told the doctor, "I want to escape from this prison again, and I need your help." The doctor explained to him that escaping alive from this prison was impossible, and even if he managed to escape, he would die in the freezing cold outside. But the truth was, if he didn't escape, he would still die because the lead mines where they worked had high levels of lead, which entered their bodies through the air and caused deadly diseases like cancer. The doctor advised Clemens to make one last attempt to escape. The doctor then gave Clemens all his warm clothes and shoes and told him that Russian soldiers hid their food along the railway lines. He also gave Clemens a gun for self-defense. The doctor had collected all these supplies because he also wanted to escape, but a week ago, he found out he had cancer and only had a month to live. He handed Clemens a lunchbox and said, "If you survive, deliver this lunchbox to my family and tell them I am no longer in this world." That night, Clemens escaped again, but this time he decided to walk instead of boarding a train. The next morning, when the warden found out that Clemens had escaped, he went to the doctor's room to interrogate him. But before he arrived, the doctor had already taken his own life. The warden then sent many Russian soldiers to search for Clemens, but after several days, they couldn't find him. Everyone thought Clemens must have frozen to death in the cold, but the warden knew Clemens was strong and wouldn't give up so easily, so he ordered the search to continue. Meanwhile, Clemens was moving forward with full determination, braving the snowstorm. 9 days after escaping, Clemens suddenly heard the sound of dogs barking. When he turned around, he saw a sled coming towards him. Before he could run away, the sled reached him and passed by. Clemens then realized he had been dreaming. In reality, Clemens had been walking for 9 days, and now his food had run out. Hunger and exhaustion made it difficult for him to continue, but he didn't give up and kept moving forward. After a few more days, Clemens' body gave up, and he fainted from hunger. When he regained consciousness, he heard a strange sound around him. He then saw a seal, and his eyes lit up. He quickly took out his gun and tried to shoot the seal, but he missed, and the seal started to run away. Clemens chased after it, but before he could shoot again, the seal hid behind a rock. Just as the seal was about to enter the water, Clemens fired his last bullet and hit it. Overjoyed, Clemens celebrated because he no longer had to worry about food for the rest of his journey. After eating his fill and resting for a while, Clemens continued his journey. He was completely alone, surrounded by nothing but snow. In such an environment, his mental state could have deteriorated, so he kept talking to himself, saying positive things to motivate himself. He also used a compass to check his direction so he wouldn't get lost in the snowy wilderness. Days passed, and after 2 months of continuous walking, Clemens saw a small tree in the snowy field. Overjoyed, he ran and hugged the tree. This tree was a sign that Clemens had finally crossed the Arctic Circle. Meanwhile, the warden was still searching for Clemens and ordered his search party to look for him within a 500 kilometers radius. On the other hand, Clemens was moving through a forest when a snowstorm hit. The storm was so strong that even large trees were uprooted and fell to the ground. As Clemens tried to move forward, a large tree fell on him. Fortunately, 2 men named Sam John and Matten, who were searching for gold in the forest, saw Clemens and saved his life. The 3 of them then moved forward together and, after several days, left the snowy field behind. On their way, they found a river and built a wooden raft to cross it. While crossing the river, they started talking and sharing stories from their childhood. However, the river's current became too strong, and their small raft went out of control. Sam John lost his balance and fell into the water. Since Sam John couldn't swim, he started drowning. Seeing this, Clemens jumped into the water and managed to bring Sam John to the shore. Meanwhile, Matten abandoned them and took the raft to move ahead alone. Later, Matten reached a hut where he had stayed with Sam John, who greed took over him, and he stole Sam John's share of gold and other belongings, thinking Sam John was dead. However, shortly after, Clemens and Sam John also reached the hut. Sam John was furious at Matten's betrayal and shot him dead. After this, Clemens and Sam John packed their belongings and continued their journey, hoping to find a human settlement. Months passed, and winter returned, covering the surrounding forests with snow. Since Sam John's belongings were heavy, he was having trouble walking in the snow. Seeing this, Clemens offered to carry some of his load. However, Sam John thought Clemens wanted to steal his gold, so he attacked Clemens and knocked him unconscious. When Clemens regained consciousness, he saw a pack of wolves approaching him. To save himself, he climbed a tree, but the wolves grabbed his leg and tried to pull him down. The tree was too thin and broke, causing Clemens to fall. Just as the wolves were about to kill him, gunshots were heard. The local hunters had arrived at the last moment and saved Clemens. They took him to their village, where the villagers treated his injuries. After years of struggle, Clemens had finally reached a human settlement, and seeing so many people around him made him very happy. Clemens stayed in the village for several days, and the villagers took good care of him. One day, a notice arrived in the village, sent by the warden himself. The notice stated that a German soldier had escaped from their prison, and anyone who sheltered him would be charged with treason. Reluctantly, Clemens had to leave the village, but before he left, the villagers gave him plenty of food and a hunting dog. Now, Clemens had a companion on his long journey, so he didn't feel lonely. After several days of walking, they came across a mill. Clemens' dog ran towards the mill in search of food, and to save his dog, Clemens followed him inside. The workers at the mill recognized Clemens and took him to their owner. Clemens told them his story, and after hearing it, they felt sympathy for him. They fed him and put him on a train to Germany. Clemens was happy, thinking he would soon reach his home, but he was unaware that the mill owner had informed the warden about him. The warden and his soldiers were now waiting for Clemens at the station. However, before reaching the station, Clemens saw the soldiers and jumped off the train to escape. Unfortunately, the Russian soldiers saw him and started chasing him. Clemens quickly crossed the train tracks, but the warden appeared in front of him. Clemens' heart sank, as all his years of effort seemed to be in vain. Just as the warden was about to arrest him, Clemens' dog attacked the warden and bit him. This gave Clemens a chance to escape, and he ran with all his might. However, he heard gunshots and, when he turned back, he saw his dog had been killed. Despite his grief, Clemens didn't stop and continued to move forward. He climbed onto a bridge and jumped onto a passing train, escaping once again from the warden's grasp. Days passed, and Clemens slowly progressed on his journey. By 1952, 7 years had passed since Clemens had escaped from prison. He was now in Central Asia, wandering around a village fair. At the fair, Clemens saw various food items, but since he had no money, he had to move on. Then, he noticed two girls selling pancakes. Clemens wanted to eat the pancakes, but he didn't have a single penny. Disappointed, he started to leave, but one of the girls took pity on him and gave him a piece of pancake. A man who had witnessed this followed Clemens to a church. This man had also been a war prisoner in the past, so he didn't hand Clemens over to the police and instead tried to help him. He took Clemens to his home, where Clemens shaved and returned to his old appearance. The man then gave Clemens a new passport so he could cross the Russian border and reach Germany. Before leaving, Clemens thanked the man and headed towards the Russian-German border. A few weeks later, Clemens reached the Russian border and showed his passport to the Russian soldier. Clemens was afraid the soldier might recognize him or discover his fake passport, but fortunately, nothing happened, and the soldier allowed him to cross the border. Clemens was so happy that he couldn't stop smiling. Finally, he reached the bridge that would take him to Germany. But as he was halfway across, a bright light shone in his eyes, and when he opened them, he saw the warden standing in front of him. When Clemens looked back, he realized he was still on Russian soil, meaning the warden could still arrest him. Clemens' heart broke, as all his years of effort seemed to be in vain. But then, something unexpected happened. The warden stepped aside and allowed Clemens to go forward. The warden was impressed by Clemens' determination and bravery, so he didn't arrest him and let him return to his country. Finally, Clemens crossed the border and reached Germany. He went to his home, where he saw his daughter and wife. After a while, they left the house to go to church, and Clemens followed them. Inside the church, Clemens' daughter recognized him and ran to hug him. Seeing Clemens alive after so many years, his wife was overjoyed. Finally, the three of them hugged each other, and this amazing movie came to an end. I hope you enjoyed today's story. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and leave a sweet message in the comments. See you in the next video. Until then, stay safe and keep chilling.